Some people don't know what church ministry entails. What is the work of church ministry? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, this is Matt. I'm a pastor in church ministry, and I have a YouTube channel for all of you who maybe work on a church staff or a ministry staff as a pastor, a team member, or you're a volunteer leader in your church and you have a desire to grow in your leadership and your pastoral skills. And I want to talk to you about the work of church ministry. I like that word, work. Because most of us, if you've had a job before, a job, you know that there's work. You got to show up to work. Tomorrow morning, I've got work. I'm scheduled for work. And many times, people who are new to church ministry struggle with, what does church ministry look like? What is it? Now, most of us understand the picture of going to a desk job and sitting at a computer, or going to meetings, or doing some physical labor of setting up and tearing down, ordering supplies and doing process. And certainly that's a big part of church ministry work. But many of us, especially if you're a volunteer, you're still figuring out what is the work of ministry, because I would want to tell you that the work of church ministry is very nuanced and different than a traditional 9-to-5 job. One of my family members who did a lot of manual labor work and worked, did that for years, and he loves me. But he asked a very honest question a few years ago. He came to my church and saw me on Sundays, and he'd say, Matt, I don't mean this the wrong way, but what do pastors do all day? He said, I know what you do on Sunday. You preach, or you get on with the microphone, or you pray for people and talk to them. But what do you do Monday through Saturday? Do you just read the Bible or do hospital visits? And I said, well, I read the Bible and I go to the hospital. But it was hard to explain to him what the work of church ministry is, because it's not the manual labor, the 9-to-5 day-to-day job. Today, I was just at our church. We had a big conference at 4 of our church locations here in South Florida. We called it the Dream Team Conference. And what we did is we invited all of those who serve in our church in all the areas of children's and facilities and production and worship and missions and the connections and the administration and Bible studies. I mean, you name it, people serve, and we honored them and loved them and invested in them and celebrated and honored and prayed for them. It was just a beautiful, beautiful time. And it reminded me of the work of the leader is the team. It's the people. That it's not that I don't go pray for people or work and set up. I stayed and helped tear down today. It's not that I don't go to the hospital. It's not that I don't preach the sermon, but really the pastor, the ministry leader, needs to understand that the most of your focus and energy needs to be for the team that serves with you. They're the hands and feet of Jesus. They're the body of Christ doing the work of the church. And I was reminded of my setup teardown days, which I'll often share about in this YouTube channel video. How many of you have a portable church, or you have a setup teardown movie theater or storefront venue? I have a friend that I started a church with, and they're still in a storefront in South Florida. It's a good church. Or you're a volunteer leader and you have a Bible study or a group in your home, and you have to move the couches and park the cars. So I've done that most of my life. I haven't had a permanent building at all. And I learned a lot of lessons in setup teardown. In fact, maybe I should do a whole teaching on lessons learned in a setup teardown church. How many would like that? Because as a young pastor that launched a church with our campuses in a school, and we were in a school for 7 years, I had an idea of what church work was, but I learned what it really was. That on Saturday mornings, we got to rent the school for a couple hours, and so I'd get a bunch of volunteers, and we had 1 or 2 staff people, maybe 1 part-time person as well, and we would set up about 8 rooms for the kids ministry and student ministry. And then we would set up the auditorium with pipe and drape, and we had to put a screen up and the sound system up and set up and tear down and bring out, and then we had to put the traffic cones out and the flags and everything else. We had a classroom for our membership class. We call it the Journey. And so it took us, we had a hospitality room. My mother-in-law did all the food for that. My father-in-law put all the chairs and desks together with another guy or a couple guys. And so if I'm being honest with you, I don't like physical work. People that work with me are like, you are like elite. You're like, I am not hard work and sweat. I am Lexus and lattes. I'm a former musician, so I like this to be in the studio with the air conditioner on, the nice office like this. But God put me in a serving position to be there. But I don't mind working hard, but I just don't want to do it for a long time. So I'd go up on Saturday mornings, every Saturday morning, to lead the way, model the way, do work. And I'd get volunteers, say, let's get the plan together. Here's the schematic and do it. And what I found as I was working is some of the team would come and say, hey, Pastor, could I talk to you? And I'd be kind of like giving the body language of, don't you see I'm busy working here? Don't you know we have 3 services tomorrow? Don't you know we have to tear down tomorrow? Don't you have to come and set up, tear down Wednesday night? And I would feel like people coming to talk to me was an interruption. I even had some of the paid janitors there at the school that we paid to open up and set up, the doors and things. They'd want to talk, and I was almost feeling like you're interrupting me from doing the work, which is to set up and make sure this place looks excellent. And what the Holy Spirit said to me one day, he convicted me and says, Matt, the people are not an interruption. That is your work. That janitor, her name was Norma, this little sweet single mom Hispanic lady. She's not just the paid janitor to do what you need to do. She's the reason I brought you into this church. See, I had a big vision like most leaders do of, I want to reach the whole region, the city we're in, and bring the city in here. We're going to have a big service and fill the room. And that's not a bad thing. But God says, Matt, before you reach the city, reach the janitor. And before you pray for the hurting and the broken at the altar on Sunday, pray for this teammate that is trying to say, I'm going through a challenge in my marriage. Or I've got a theological question. And to be honest, I was like, I don't want to talk theology. It's hot outside. We got to get home before 11 o'clock. But I realized that I had to shift my work focus from process to people. From performance to people. Now, this sounds cute and nice and heartwarming, but you're also thinking, if you're like a structured leader, the work has to get done. You only have 2 or 3 hours of rented time. You got to get home to your family. So what I would do is I started to say, okay, I'm going to continue to show up and work and model and get the work done, but I need to give more time to people that are serving with me. So I changed my focus from performing to investing in these people. And what I started doing is asking some of the more mature, healthy, steady volunteers, hey, I'm here with you, I'm sweating, but I need to care for more people, and I need to build more team to help us, because how many know you always need more volunteers? You always need more people on the team to help. And I found that some of the people that were working alone got weary faster, because if I could build more volunteers, now one wasn't in a classroom setting up and tearing down desks and moving, pipe and drape. But if I could bring another couple in, now 3 work together, guess what? Synergy, community, help. I found that the best thing I can give my volunteers is not just a Starbucks card with a thank you note or an attaboy or pray for them. It was bring more bodies in to help. So I started to tell my steady people, listen, I'm going to still be here, but I'm going to change my focus. You're going to see me work less, set up, tear down less, so I can do 2 things. Care for you and care for our volunteers. And number 2, recruit newer volunteers to come in. So I didn't just go stop working so I could do this because they get the wrong idea. I explained what I was going to do and how it would benefit the church and play my role as pastor. And they started to get it. So I didn't just stop working. I did 20% of actual working, sweating with them to build the credibility, but I started putting 80% time in caring for people that were there, the team, the janitor, the volunteers, the leaders. And number two, I started to invite newer people into the church to serve with us and be with us. As the leader, you may find some others that are good with volunteers, but you'll find no one recruits better than you. And there are things that only you can do that the team can't do. So here's the message today. As the ministry leader, the pastor, the staff person, refocus what your work is. It is different than a 9-to-5 sit in the office stop. You need to be out during the week at lunch with a person or bring groups of people together. You need to be out going bowling at night with some people and having community. You need to have them over your house or be over their house. You need to be going to events and serving them and honoring them and equipping people on Saturday mornings around coffee, around a whiteboard, so that you're getting them mobilized on your team. And then through equipping them, you're also caring for them. You know, I was a campus pastor for 14 years here at Christ Fellowship, and we had all the campuses of the North. We call it the North because it's Okeechobee, Vero, which is in Indian River, Port St. Lucie campus, which is the biggest, my old campus, Stewart, and then Okeechobee. And all the campus pastors are friends of mine that started with me at Stewart. Not only are the campus pastors my friends that started with me, a lot of the people at those campuses started with me at Stewart campus. We actually became, over 14 years, a sending campus. So I got to see we had almost 700 volunteers today on a Saturday morning with our 4 campuses, the North. We kept on saying we the North. And it was so gratifying for me to reconnect with people and then come up and say, Pastor, I'm serving today or leading today because you called me up. Pastor, you invested in my son. Pastor, you helped give me permission to think bigger and to take more ownership. It was so gratifying to see that my work was the masterpiece of ministry. And I helped set up and tear it down, but I realized the biggest work I could do as the pastor today was not lead from the platform or make decisions or perform. It was to walk slowly through the crowd and not see people as interruptions, but to see them as the ministry work, to just listen to them and laugh with them and pray for them and encourage them and affirm them. If you'll do the right work with the right people at the right times, the ministry will get done. The process will eventually be followed because you're doing the work of the people. Isn't that good? Hey, leave a comment below about what you're learning about the ministry work. And if you've got a question, please let me know. Subscribe to this channel. And I want to thank you for leading in God's church to build His people.